Seven, six, five, four, three, two, one.
Welcome, everybody, to CBD Talk Podcast, episode number 67. And we have with us today someone that I mentioned on episode 65 with Kit O'Connell, journalist Janet Burns. Welcome, Janet. How are you today?
I'm very well. Thank you so much for having me.
Okay, guys, I have to let you in a little secret. We did this yesterday. The audio was terrible. I did not check it first, so we're doing it again because Janet's a trooper. So now, thanks. Yeah, I'm careful. I'll hold you to that. So Janet writes for a couple different periodicals, but I wanted to mention that she has been focusing a lot on the cannabis industry lately. And so some of the places that you can find her work are Leafly, Forbes Online, Gizmodo, and Alternet. So you may have run across some of her pieces already and just didn't really realize it. So today we're going to speak about a few different things, but one of the things that we're going to talk about is an article that I mentioned to Kit on episode 65 about something that Janet saw some information on and decided to write an article on. And it's something that pissed me off just in a major way. And I'm hoping you've already read this article, but I will put a link to it in the show notes. So if you haven't, I think it's one you need to think about and you need to read because it's very important. So Janet, how about we start out with you telling us a little bit about how you chose to write about the cannabis industry.
Absolutely. Well, I've been interested in cannabis as well as numerous other herbal drugs for about half my life since I was a teenager, and I have been learning about them as much as I can. And in the past several years, I moved to Brooklyn and also started writing freelance. Now that's my full-time gig, is writing for different publications. And also over the past few years, there has obviously been a huge change, an ongoing change going on in the media and also in sort of the public awareness and opinion about cannabis. And so I've had the opportunity to start covering these events that I, was already excited about and have, really been learning so much now that I'm taking on these topics for work and not just in my spare time on those few websites that have been available for years with pretty good information about these things. And even though, coming in with some level of experience and expertise, I've still had my mind blown a number of times as the data has really started to gather in the past few years around the really compelling medical and social uses of CBD and other plants that have been described to me as being in sort of our evolutionary garden of plants that work with the human mind and body. So the more I learn, the more compelled I am to keep covering this area as best I can, from hemp to the dankest flower. There's a lot there that could be offered to a lot of people.
Yeah, it really is amazing how much new information comes out and on a regular basis too. It's I can't think of any other industry that so much information is coming out so fast. I mean, just more and more and more. It's just like this tidal wave that just doesn't stop.
Yeah, and it's been incredible to watch, and it really seems is exponential or speeding up in a lot of ways. And more than one person has I've heard more than one person make the connection that a year in cannabis is kind of like 2 years. A year will go by, but it'll feel like 7 years, especially lately.
Oh, and now with the Farm Bill passing and complete descheduling of CBD and hemp, not the THC side, but the CBD side, the industrial hemp.
For sure.
Uh,
Yeah.
Now the shackles are off for research for the schools that were worried about losing funding, federal dollars for their universities. Now they can go at it, and honestly, these universities, they've come up with amazing things in all industries, and I'm very excited to see what's coming from them.
Yeah, absolutely. Every additional research dollar that heads towards this field is extremely well spent, I think. And yeah, also over the past few years, a number of different universities have been stepping up and offering cannabis medicine classes or cannabis law classes. And, a year or two ago, I feel like other universities were, kind of thinking, glad it wasn't me, not quite ready to take the plunge. But that is really changing quickly. I think, the majority of Americans who are polled consistently say they're more in favor of the plant than not. And I think that institutions and businesses and lawmakers are really starting to get the message that that's the direction we're going.
Yeah, and like I said before, we are also grateful for the people before us who have been fighting the fight for a decade or more, because without them, we wouldn't be where we are right now. We would still be in war on drugs with people cracking an egg into a frying pan. This is your brain on drugs. There's a lot of young people out there that have never seen that commercial, but for those of us that are, like in our 50s, we were raised on that, and thank God things have moved forward. So thank you to all those, and thank you to schools that are providing classes now and things like that. And I know it's just going to get even better. So.
Yeah, I have to second that. I'm extraordinarily, and I can't really put into words how grateful I am to the people that have been working on this for decades and trying to share these truths for decades, but being ignored, and the millions of people who, of course, have been incarcerated or otherwise punished for participating in this industry that I've gotten to take advantage of and others have. So,
yeah, just the week before Christmas, I was talking to Kit on his episode. He's with Ministry of Hemp, and he was telling me about a group that some people that they're trying to support, and they're doing fundraising for. A mother and son in Nebraska opened a CBD shop. They were arrested the week before Christmas. Everything was seized. This was CBD. There was no THC in this.
Wow.
And the son spent the weekend in jail, got out Christmas Eve, but all their assets have been seized. So
That's awful.
Yeah.
Wow.
It is beyond ridiculous. So the fight's not over.
Yeah, no kidding. Yeah, the arrests are still very high in this country. They're up in a lot of ways. But something that you and I talked about during our warm-up version of this yesterday was the fact that in New York City, for example, where I live, arrests have been among the highest in the country, and very, very disproportionately weighing on communities of color. And that, it's continued into 2018, but only this fall did a report come out that was passed along to me by the Drug Policy Alliance in New York that showed that finally this past September 2018, arrests were down in New York over 90% for simple marijuana use or possession. And 1 year before, that wasn't the case, even though in New York, simple, low-level marijuana possession or consumption has been a ticketable offense for decades. The arrests are still happening. So, yeah, 2019, we have an opportunity as a country to really start making those changes and hopefully start directing or much of the revenues and opportunities from this industry towards those people that have been hurt by the drug war. So
Yeah.
I guess we'll see.
Gosh, I have a lot of faith that things are going in the right direction. I mean, we can see things that are pointing to that, and I'm just hoping that there's a groundswell to keep it moving, and hopefully even speed it up. I know that there are states and cities and municipalities around the country that are wiping clean records as we speak.
Yeah, that's so encouraging to see, and it's such an important step forward. And I'm also encouraged by equity programs in, say, California and other parts of the country, not statewide, of course, but in, you know, municipalities and different cities and towns that actually require a person to have a cannabis offense in their background if they're going to participate. And I think that's I think that's a fair and very interesting measure. It's a, you know, a way of ensuring that people who were directly hurt by an industry when they were participating in, you know, when it was underground,
Mm-hmm.
can now bring their experience into that industry now that it's suddenly permissible.
Yeah, yeah, it's there's just a lot that we can do to kind of balance things out, and it's nice to know that there are some big places doing that. So, all right, so let's get to why I hunted you down for this episode. I read an article that you wrote that was amazing in a terrifying way. So,
Thank you.
so go ahead and just tell us about the article and what you found out.
Absolutely. Well, in short, the article is about the fact that a lot of the products that are on the market right now and growing more numerous every day, especially after the Farm Bill's passing, are questionable in that either we don't know what's in them. In some cases, there are contaminants or additives that can be dangerous or potentially dangerous, and drawing attention to the fact that there's a lot of confusion and not a lot of regulation happening right now in CBD. And it came about because I saw a study that came out of Virginia Commonwealth University in several weeks ago in December, and it just really stuck with me because what that study found was that in several of the samples it tested from a major CBD e-liquid or vape liquid manufacturer, several of those samples contained some chemicals very much not listed on the company website or in materials. One of them was dextromethorphan, or DXM, which is a cough suppressant and does have a history of recreational use and abuse. You may have heard of it referred to as robo-tripping, but it's something that younger people have often turned to because this is a drug that you can find in pharmacies.
Basically, cough medicine.
Yep, cough medicine. So not CBD. And in some other samples, these researchers turned up a chemical that is known as a synthetic cannabinoid. And synthetic cannabinoids are a group of chemicals that have been created to stimulate the endocannabinoid system in the body, which is also stimulated by phytocannabinoids or outside cannabinoids, such as THC or CBD. They can be found in cannabis and a number of other plants, and they stimulate this system in the body, which is supposed to moderate and, you know, establish normalcy in our different systems. It can work in a bunch of different ways. These synthetic cannabinoids are basically unknown at this point. The makers, as these different chemicals keep being put on the Schedule I controlled drug list because of dangers that have come up around them, people will tweak it by one molecule so that there is a new compound that is technically not illegal and will show up again in bodegas and corner stores and whatnot, sometimes as synthetic marijuana, and sometimes we have seen over the past year in products that proclaim to be CBD. And yeah, this group of synthetic cannabinoids is known as SPICE or K2. And in New York, in Utah, in Europe, in Japan, we've seen people overdose. There have been at least several deaths and well over 100 overdoses involving disorientation, difficulty breathing, zombie-like behavior that have happened in New York. So all that being said, when I came across this report, I was very worried and surprised that there wasn't too much coverage yet. There was a useful discussion of it in Consumer Reports online. So I went ahead and reached out to the company and got to talk to the CEO. The company is called Diamond CBD. They manufacture about 300 different products, some under their Diamond CBD line, some under different product names, and they're owned by a holding company, which is a tradable company and is involved in a few different interests. But what the CEO told me was that DXM and this synthetic cannabinoid had never been included in the company's products, but that in his opinion, either the samples that the researchers used had been intentionally tainted, or perhaps, a more reasonable theory is that these contaminants could have entered products further up in the supply chain, because like many or most CBD manufacturers, the CBD oil that this company gets is coming in from a third party. The flavorings that they use are coming in from a third party, and even the vegetable glycerin they use as a base is coming in. So this brings attention to the fact that laboratories that are handed over from supplier to supplier to supplier before a product reaches the consumer just basically are an honor system sort of deal. People can't check that. And so I chatted with the CEO and asked if I could see the lab reports that the company got after they retested the products, which they said they would do in November after this original study came out. And I was very surprised to see on the results that they shared with me that while no synthetic cannabinoids or DXM showed up in the samples they had tested, each lab result stated in bold that the products had melatonin as the major constituent and CBD as the minor constituent. And melatonin, as many of your listeners may know, is a hormone that's produced naturally by the body and which signals the body that it's time to go to sleep, basically. And I have a few friends that have taken it for sleep, and you're supposed to take it, an hour or two before bed, because it takes a while for the signaling properties to happen. And the CEO told me that he got the idea to include melatonin in his products after someone had mentioned at a trade show a few years ago that they did that, and that some of his customers had also been asking for CBD products to help them sleep. Now, this may be, melatonin is certainly a fairly frequently used supplement, sometimes prescribed, sometimes bought over the counter to help people sleep, but it is not CBD and can, certainly bring on sleepiness at any time of day. And if people are not aware that that hormone is in the product or that it's a major constituent, they're not going to get the results they expect.
Right. And so what institution did this study?
It was Virginia Commonwealth University. And the researcher that I spoke to, he has been the lead researcher on this study. He's been doing this for 10 years. He's been going into corner stores and buying pouches of some kind of plant material that have what we now know as K2 sprayed on it, and marketed in psychedelic bags that may say not for human consumption, but everything else about them suggests this is
human
consumption. Yeah. So he's seen these evolve, and he's been quietly testing these for years. And unfortunately, there's still over that time, new regulation efforts have really not stepped up nearly to the degree that these products have become popular and easily available. Right.
And so what's important to note is that, so this did come up in tests, and this researcher has plenty of things to show other things that he's tested. He does not need to sensationalize anything because it's pretty darn easy for him to find product to to go out and expose. So whether or not the producer knew that it was in there, it is still his responsibility to test his product himself before he puts it out there. You need to know and be responsible for what you're selling. And for there to be CBD products out there that are tainted like this, information obviously was not on the label saying, hey, cough medicine and spice are included in this bottle. No, it just said CBD on it. So this is something that we talk about a lot because of the lack of regulation right now in the industry, and because there are a lot of people that are not educated. I mean, a lot of people, and it's not their fault, but there's just not a lot of education around when it comes to CBD. Everyone talks about THC, and because that's fun and sexy to talk about. CBD, honestly, pretty boring. Sorry, guys. It's not going to get you high, and so if you feel like you're getting some sort of a buzz from it, that's really not a good indication that you're taking a pure CBD product. So, I don't even know how to tell people to avoid it. I don't.
It's so tough. Yeah, and yeah, the first thing, yeah, that you mentioned is so important to share with people is that, yeah, CBD is not capable of getting you intoxicated. That's not how it works. I know we were talking about yesterday about how it is psychoactive because it can, make you relax. It is active on the brain. And in that sense, it could make you feel a little bit different. If you feel a little bit less stressed out, that is an acceptable response. You also may not right away, certainly depending on your dose and who you are. But anything beyond that is not created by CBD. And I've had that conversation with a number of people recently, even, friends of mine that have been smoking weed for years, are, very knowledgeable, tend to grasp science when it's presented to them. But they were surprised to find out from me, and I was surprised that they didn't know that, CBD basically doesn't make you feel anything. It should have no noticeable effect. And that's the CBD articles that we do see in, increasingly in major publications talking about, different products and remedies and trends in that area. I feel like they should all have that note far up for people that are trying to learn, just, to get that context. By the way, it won't make you feel any of these things.
Yeah, you're not going to feel intoxicated, and that's huge, and that's a great way to put it. I know, I've said before that it's not psychoactive, and that was an error because lack of anxiety is actually it is active in your brain. That is a psychoactive effect. So, but so non-intoxicating is definitely a clearer way to put it.
Yeah, no, I definitely didn't come up with that. A researcher, an evolutionary neurobiologist mentioned that to me a few months ago, and I was like, that's the word I wanted all along. Thank you.
I need to remember that. Yeah. We've had a couple scientists on the show that have mentioned that as well, and I need to keep reminding myself that that's how to phrase that. But so okay, so we have bad actors in the field. We have people that are jumping into an industry that they know nothing about. They're not doing their due diligence.
Yeah.
They're not testing their products before they put it out, and they're not labeling correctly. And I've spoken a few episodes back about an animal health company that did the same thing, or not the same thing, but something similar, where they thought they were selling something as one thing, and that's not what it was. Also, when you have a test saying that melatonin is the primary ingredient, then CBD should not be the first thing on the label. There are labeling guidelines and such, and so there's deceptive advertising out there, and I have to tell you that I'm sure melatonin is a lot less expensive than CBD.
Absolutely. The issue came up of labeling and the order in which ingredients should be listed when I was looking at this company and discussing with my editor because I got the lab results about the melatonin sort of close to publication. We were expecting to just write about the first two potential reported contaminants. And it took us a minute to figure out what's going on, with this company or this lab report, kind of passing it back and forth like that. That means there's more melatonin. We're like, this doesn't sound right, and kind of trying to what's going on here? And then we ended up looking through the website and seeing that some of the products mention having a dash of melatonin sort of in their top level descriptors, the product description. Other products, which are not specifically marketed for sleep, as the CEO pointed out to me, do have melatonin listed in the ingredients, not in the main product description, but if you go down, there's a few different tabs. You can click on ingredients, and it will say, hemp extracted natural CBD, melatonin, and then a few other things. And broadly speaking, the expectation that consumers have because of laws establishing this point is that the first ingredient is, the largest content in that, whatever it is. And that's so often why we'll see, shampoo or something where it says aqua as the first ingredient. It takes a lot of water.
So people are putting things into their product so that you will feel something when you take it. Where as we talked about prior, when you take CBD, if it is just a pure cannabidiol product, you don't feel an effect come on. It's not like you're taking an opiate where you feel it kick in, or a cough medicine, or melatonin where you feel it kick in. What you feel is the absence of symptoms. And typically what will happen is after you've been taking it for a while, you don't think it's even working, and then you stop taking it, and that's when you realize, oh my God, it was working, because your symptoms come back. So this is not a normal thing to feel. Now, you can feel relaxed, and if you take copious amounts of it, it can make you sleepy, like melatonin. But if you're taking 20 milligrams, that's not what you're going to experience. And so you have manufacturers out there who are doing things to sell more product. They're not doing it to help your health. They're doing it because you'll feel something and you're like, oh, this must work because I'm feeling something come up. That's not the way the industry, the good players in the industry work. We don't have to have people add things. It just works.
Absolutely. Yeah. I think, for people that are interested in this, it would be, or concerned about this, or have friends that are especially friends that are just starting out trying CBD or cannabis for the first time, I think it would be an incredibly helpful thing just to tell people, especially if someone, at the office or on your block mentions they're trying CBD for the first time, say, that's great. Let me know how it goes. I'd love to hear where you got it. By the way, you shouldn't feel anything. Just, I feel maybe word of mouth, because for so long that is how a lot of information was disseminated about cannabis in this country. So, whatever gets the word out, I think would be really helpful. And if someone says, yeah, I know that, what do you think I am? Then, it's not a huge price to pay.
Exactly.
Know-it-all.
Say, well, Janet and Dawn said I was supposed to tell you, so I'm just telling you.
Exactly. You can blame us.
Yeah, we'll take it for you. We'll take the blame for you on that one. All day, every day. So, let's see. I think we talked yesterday about some of the changes or some of the things that are New York specific about like I know Bill de Blasio's been talking a lot about and has been talking a lot about the industry cannabis. And you had also mentioned that Governor Cuomo has been making some comments about it. So how about you kind of update us about what's happening in New York with respect to cannabis and CBD, of course.
Sure. Yeah. Well, I'm pretty proud to say that New York City has been the largest consumer of cannabis, at least of major Western cities that were polled for a couple years. We beat out LA pretty easily, but at the same time, we have also been the arrest capital and incarceration capital for a long time. Rikers Island has a substantial number of people in it even today that were arrested for small marijuana offenses and are sitting there because they can't post bail. So we've got a lot of cultural investment and community investment, and also very negative history of cannabis here in New York. Some big movements have been trying to get up to speed over the past couple decades, but over the past year or two, it's definitely been a lot of movement that is exciting. If sometimes people around here, like myself, get a little impatient about how quickly that change is coming. And I would say that, Mayor de Blasio and to a degree, Governor Cuomo have been showing signs that they're open to change over the past year or two. Governor Cuomo's been slower about that and has expressed his concerns, pretty common arguments, against it over the years. But things have really heated up in 2018, and Mayor de Blasio was able to, report, as I mentioned, this fall that finally New York arrests have started to go down. That a lot of pressure was put on by activists, also people in the substance abuse community, relating to the connection there with opioid abuse and cannabis. There's a huge overlap that, trying to get the conversation on that more. And just before the holidays, Governor Cuomo announced that in 2019, he wants to bring adult use to New York State. And a writer for another publication actually sent me an email right after that happened and said, what do you think? Were you surprised? And I said, no, we kind of all saw this coming. I mean, it's a smart move for him at this point. It's, people are really asking for it in New York. New York already has a pretty robust hemp program, which could, continue to bring a lot of jobs and a lot of investment and value to New York. And it seems like, the message has been received. So obviously, I'm not going to tell someone in Colorado that we're just going to dive right in and have all our problems sorted out real soon. But Connecticut and New Jersey are both really chomping at the bit. They've got their medical programs expanding. Massachusetts just started having recreational. So with that regional pressure, it seems pretty clear that New York lawmakers do not want to be left behind.
Yeah, they don't want to be the Texas or Alabama of the Northeast.
Goodness, no, yeah.
That would not be a monocle I want to wear. So,
No kidding.
I think that's really exciting. I mean, California has jumped in on the rec side as well, and it's been difficult for them because they are so huge. And so they've had a lot of back and forth and oh, this is failing and this is succeeding, blah blah blah, and taxes and yada yada yada. So I mean, Colorado, we're a smaller state. We don't have the scale that like a New York or a California have because of the sheer population. So I'm hoping that they will look around and try to take the best of all of the different areas, all the legal states, and I think that there are enough examples out there now that hopefully New York can do a great job with it. So.
Yeah, Something I heard recently stuck with me, and it's in no way meant to slight Colorado, but is I
Hey,
think it was
nobody's
at a
perfect.
yeah, no, yeah. I mean, y'all got in and did the work, and we can learn so much from it. It was at a cannabis media conference. Another journalist brought up the point that people are, always bringing up things that have gone wrong or could go better in Colorado as reasons why other states shouldn't move forward with their own programs, and they're saying, oh, we can't use the Colorado model. And her response was, nobody is suggesting that we use Colorado as a model. Like, we learned a lot from them, but they have, slogged this out for 18 years and longer, and, done it the hard way. No one is proposing that we do it the hard way, but yeah, we have a lot to learn from Colorado, and yeah, certainly from California, which seems like it's got its own bits of chaos going on right now. I hear this from the hemp
Vegas
side, from the CBD side.
Yeah.
Gee whiz, yeah. I would love to check that out sometime.
The Vegas side has, well, right off the bat, they had the problems where, and I'm not sure what they've done about this, but the only organization that was allowed to legally transport the cannabis from the growers to the dispensary was somehow governed by the alcohol board. It was some really weird, twisted situation. And so the dispensaries ran out of weed. The growers had it there waiting for someone to take it to them. But there was some weird stuff going on, but I think they've gotten that figured out. But yeah, every state has got, it's like, oh, don't do this. I know here in Colorado, we have taken millions and millions of tax revenue and put it towards helping the homeless. And so I'm very grateful for that. Also, funding the like infrastructure for schools and things like that. So we've been able to do that. And I think that I read an article this morning, and I believe they said 18,000 jobs, 18,000 cannabis related jobs. So it's, you're gonna, there's always a better way to do something. And so if you can take a look at one program and improve on it, great, because then that circles around, and we're, the thing that we have in our state that really messes things up is TABOR, tax. It's the Bill of Rights. It's the Citizens Bill of Rights for taxes. So our taxes are very, very, very specific, and if we get too much money from a tax, we have to refund it back to the citizens.
Wow.
So yeah, so it's interesting, and that was it is part of our Constitution. Unfortunately, now it came in, I don't know how many years, maybe 20 years ago or whatever. That's something we really need to get reversed, because we could be doing even more in our state with the cannabis taxing, but it's ridiculous.
That's fascinating. Right now I'm working on for a new publication that I'm going to write for, a guide to Colorado's, all of, from a consumer and medical perspective, all of Colorado's extant laws, and much more complicated than I thought. I had a familiar working, I had a working awareness, but, my mom's out in California. I've spent time there, and I assumed that more things would be similar than they are. But number two, I was digging into the Constitution and trying to track down the rules for patients, and that's some serious stuff. I'm gonna need to spend a little more time reading today before I get what I need out of it. But it's very interesting.
Anytime you get into legal stuff, it's like layers and layers and layers and layers. But what are you hoping to see in 2019 with respect to the cannabis industry as a whole?
Yeah, I know that some of these might be pretty high hopes. Well, definitely high hopes, but what I'd love to see in 2019, or at least starting to take shape in 2019 going forward, is cheap, safe, tested, high quality CBD available to, not only the general public, which I think can benefit from it a lot based on the various medical applications that we are aware of and becoming aware of every week, but also groups like veterans who have been calling for it and demanding it for years and need it for, and can find relief for PTSD and pain and various other conditions that can very commonly affect often quite young veterans, but going all the way up through the oldest groups that we have. So that's very meaningful to me. And other people with cancer and MS and different mental disorders and conditions and on and on. I would love to see them have access. And it's hard enough to find fairly to find reliable sources of CBD. There have been whole Reddit communities dedicated to this for years, just sharing this information with each other because it's so difficult to do. And even if the cost is relatively affordable, I feel like in most cases it's too much. So I'd really love to see insurance companies, from private to Medicare, stepping up and participating in this and, supporting patients by, reimbursing them for or helping them get what should be a very low cost medicine, which would in fact, prevent more costly care or, complications that can occur down the road. I'd love to see, you mentioned earlier, I'd love to see people's criminal records being wiped. And I would love to see, just I'd love to see a lot of things. Yeah, I got a whole vision from me. The sparkling future of the USA, where we're getting more of our protein from hemp, and being able to use our farmlands for with a product that can not only help clean them up, it can clean up water and other drain sites, but provide a supplement that many or most of us can benefit from. And how's that? Is that enough for one more?
I think so. I've got my hemp hat on. It's very comfy. It's very comfy. One of the things that we talked about yesterday. Oh, I remember what it was. Okay, so we were talking about how we don't want people to stop trying either CBD or THC or any of the cannabinoids just because they had an experience that wasn't something that they felt was good for them. So, and I have talked about on episodes prior how I am like the biggest lightweight ever, and so I smoked some flower, just a few puffs, and my brain just decided that I no longer needed to remember how to swallow. So, and so some people may have had an experience similar to that. And truly, I'm not a big THC person. I do, I see a lot of benefit to it. It's just not my go-to. My go-to is CBD because that's where I feel comfortable. But that doesn't mean that that I don't continue to try different THC products as well. There are lots of things out there, like just because you smoke some pot and forgot how to swallow and had to walk around with a towel because to soak up your saliva like I did does not mean that that it's not for you. There's a 1-to-1s, there's a 8-to-1s, there's 20-to-1s, there's edibles. For me, edibles get into my body in a way that I can actually benefit from them without being stupid. Let's talk a little bit about that, about some different things or experiences that you might be able to relate to the people.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree that not everything works for everybody and affects people in very different ways, but every year and every month we are understanding more about how these cannabinoid chemicals work. We're certainly, compared to when I first started smoking weed, can get the breakdown of what the different cannabinoid levels are in them. There's a lot more information available, and people that are trying to make that information available, make that fit happen. So yeah, if people, if someone thinks that there's something that they can gain from cannabis, I absolutely encourage them to explore it. And something that I was really excited to learn, in relation to this, but generally speaking, a few years ago, which, I went through a decade of smoking weed without knowing, is that CBD will mediate the effects of THC and is often described as being able to, sort of lessen or moderate any, certain side effects that people find unpleasant, if it's anxiety or just, feeling like you're too high. The CBD can actually balance it out. The chemicals not only support each other's functioning, but also sort of keep each other in check. So yeah, something that I've mentioned to people is, if you're worried about trying something where the THC content is too strong for you, yeah, try a 1-to-1 or have some CBD on hand.
That's actually what I did. Is I actually, after my brain cleared enough to figure out what to do, is I took some tincture and it definitely mellowed it out a bit.
Oh, that's good. Yeah.
But
I haven't had the drool experience, but I will say that there is another natural drug that people take less commonly, but does have a spiritual and cultural history. And the 2 times that I took that, I was convinced I had peed my pants. I hadn't, but I was like, well, this is it. Got to leave the room quietly. You peed your pants, Apparently, I'm not alone. So I think there must be, there's something there. I'm gonna have to look into, what is about our
bodily fluids.
Yeah. This is about body. We lose all hope in them when
when something psychedelic or psychoactive happens. And so
could be worse.
So on that note, when it comes to CBD, if you've tried CBD and it hasn't worked for you, there are different methods, there are different strengths, there are different products.
Yeah.
So
absolutely,
you may be taking something that is not a very good product, first of all, like the ones that we kind of have talked about. And in the years past, FDA has released reports about certain products, and where it said that there was 250 milligrams in a bottle, and there was 5 milligrams in a bottle.
Oh,
So
wow.
yeah, and so I think that was like 2016 maybe, or 2015 when those came out. I can't quite remember, but no, it's out there, and you can go and find the FDA letters, and it was just like, are you kidding me? So it's possible that that you might not be getting what you think you're getting. Also, there are different products and different ways to use CBD. There are people who don't digest it really well, and I had spoken with someone before who explained that. But if you take a nano encapsulated product, it doesn't go through digestion; it goes straight into your system. So that's something to try.
Absolutely. Yeah, and my mom, for example, has been doing a great job of trying different kinds of CBD that I've gotten for her over the past year to help with epilepsy that she's been diagnosed with. And of trying any treatment is going to take time and patience, and you gotta listen to your body, I think is the way that you put it yesterday. You just got to check in with the way different parts of your body are reacting. But yeah, she has found that compared to capsule, she had a bit of a powder, has tried the tincture. For her, at least, sublingual tincture oil seems the best fit. She seems to get the best reaction to that. But it's very different can be very different for different people.
Yeah.
And
Because my mom is in her 70s, and for her, vaping, she doesn't like
right.
the tinctures, but she likes to vape. So, and for her, the vaping works really well for her seizures and pain control. But there are a lot of different options out there. There really are. And there are, I had mentioned before, there's some bath bombs. You know, bath bombs are the thing right now. And so there's bath bombs with 50 milligrams of CBD in it. And remember that your skin has those CB2 receptors in it. So if you're soaking in a bath of 50 milligrams of CBD, your body's going to bring some of that, bring a lot of that in for you. And for someone who might have rheumatoid arthritis, or for a child, these are great options. If you're someone who is a little worried about CBD and is not quite ready to take that capsule or that tincture yet, then go with the bomb. Take a bath. A bath is so easy.
Yeah.
So
Oh, go
mhm.
ahead. I was going to say, and something else that I think, increasingly people are aware of, but, still hasn't been hammered home too much in terms of the public information I'm seeing, is that, and there will be a few conditional statements after this, but you cannot overdose on CBD. You cannot cause your heart to stop. You cannot cause yourself to start having trouble breathing. This is not something that it's capable of doing. And I calculated a while back, based on tests that had been done, science went as far as figuring out that someone of my weight could take 15,000 milligrams of CBD in a day and be fine. And that would be thousands of dollars worth of CBD every day. If I were taking, in products that are available today, I would have to drink a lot of little bottles or eat a lot of powdered isolate. That might give me a stomach ache. I think, as you mentioned yesterday, too much oil will give you diarrhea, any kind of oil. But no one needs to try that. We know that it's safe up to that amount, and the normal sort of dose that people start with in the medicinal range is between 20 and 60 milligrams for their daily. Usually start with 20 and kind of work your way up. So you're not going to max out. It's not something that you need to be concerned about on CBD content.
Yeah. It's and that's one of the great things is, when you think of the side effects of the opiates, and you think of the side effects of the seizure drugs, and on and on and on. And for me, asthma drugs. I was on the Advair 500, and CBD took care of the bronchial spasms and the inflammation in my lungs, and I don't take inhalers anymore. I actually, a few months ago, stopped taking CBD for a couple months, and my asthma came raging back. And so about a week ago or so, I started taking CBD again, and it's fine. It's fine again. But that's for me. But what I'm saying is, we don't know how it's going to help everybody. But how, yesterday you talked about when you were reading, and you had that aha moment about how the endocannabinoid system works. How about you talk about, just give us a little bit of that as well?
Sure, yeah. So I mentioned a little bit earlier, the endocannabinoid system is a system in the body that is tasked with maintaining balance and order. And the aha moment came for me when it was explained to me how it works, in that it connected the dots between a chemical with so many demonstrated uses that are very compelling in human health, and this idea that we have, and unfortunately discuss often, that it's a miracle drug or a miracle substance. And so I broke through that, and I understood why we call it that way. When I understood that cannabinoids like CBD, or also ones that are found in things like real chocolate or turmeric or echinacea, and can even be stimulated by, other activities in the body, will stimulate the system that is tasked with maintaining balance. So if that is buildup of certain kinds of proteins in the brain associated with dementia, Alzheimer's, and aging, whether that is, cancerous tumor formation, down in the foot, or, pain and inflexibility in the musculoskeletal system. It's not so much that a unprecedentedly fabulous molecule can just go straight to those sites and fix them all in different ways, although CBD does in fact have a bunch of different ways, a bunch of modes of function within the body. But what ties it all together and why it's so useful for so many things, helping the body to recover itself from so many things, is because it stimulates this system, which, just exists to keep us normal and help us right ourselves. And sometimes that system itself can be a little out of whack. We don't have enough endocannabinoids happening in our bodies and stimulating the endocannabinoid receptors in our legs, in our stomach, in our brains, then that system is not going to do as good of a job at keeping the rest of our body in balance. That if you bring in those phytocannabinoids, it can really make a difference and help the body do what it does best.
Exactly. Our bodies are meant to heal themselves. I mean, that's what these great things that we have, sometimes greater than others, are meant to do. But if the messaging system isn't working, if there's nobody at the switchboard, putting the calls through, then but it's a great thing. So, all right. So, so the story you're working on now is about the laws around cannabis, or around patients' rights or something. It was.
It's a new publication that is actually going to be coming out in Colorado. It's going to be launched in Denver. I look forward to telling you more about that when I'm allowed to.
Yeah.
It's going to be pretty cool. Yeah, definitely. I believe in February, and I'm writing sort of a primer on what the legal situation is, what people need to know in Colorado, how to differentiate between the, recreational, medical, what are the pros and cons of getting a medical card, what do you need to know before you shop, what are you allowed to do in the state versus in different towns, what do you need to know about the federal government. So I've got
you've got a lot
of work ahead.
A lot of work. And of course, one of the biggest things that we talked about at least once before, is if you have a medical card for cannabis, you can be denied the right to own a gun.
Wow.
Yeah.
See, I need to know this.
And that's nationwide.
Share that.
That's nationwide. If you have a cannabis card, then you are, in the eyes of the federal government, who is the one that makes the gun laws, you are a criminal if you're using cannabis, even if you have a license. So might want to throw that in there.
That's true. Absolutely. And something else that I been learning upon review is in Colorado, like presumably all other states that have such adult use or medical programs, federal employees are not allowed under law to be using cannabis products. Students who are if you're under 21, you're not supposed to have stuff on campus. You can get kicked out of school. You can lose your job if you're an adult and use it. So the protections are certainly not total. But
and I understand where there are good reasons where people should not be using cannabis on the jobs, especially like in manufacturing, in trucking, driving. But we have to be able to get the tests and find a way where we can say, yes, this is a safe level of cannabis, versus you're stoned out of your mind and shouldn't be around this machinery that can take your arm off. We've got to get to that point.
Yeah, and it comes back to the intoxication point. I don't think someone who's intoxicated on anything should be
Exactly.
driving a school bus or operating heavy machinery, or for that matter, making laws. But,
Yeah. But
I
that's the
think
thing
that
is, we have alcohol. We know how to decide whether someone's drunk or not. But like right now, your blood alcohol level is blah. So I just don't know how that's going to work.
Yeah, no, indeed. And the tests are, some tests can detect, THC versus CBD, say, and people, one question that I see coming up online a lot when people are first looking into CBD, will it show up in drug tests, they ask, and the answer is maybe.
Yeah, exactly.
But we do know that it does not intoxicate people, and the tests that have been developed for THC or cannabis generally are fallible and still quite new. And we note this, we've known for a while that cannabis can stay in your bloodstream for 6 weeks, maybe longer. You smoke a joint, 5 weeks later, you are not high. I don't care who you are. In my opinion, you're not high. But it's in your blood, so they have no way of testing it. And apparently in Colorado and other places, if you have been given a, driving under the influence summons or ticket for cannabis, you can argue, it was in my bloodstream, I wasn't high at the time. I can imagine that argument would go several different ways, depending on where you are, what sheriff's, domain, what resources you have to put into that argument. But,
Yeah, and that's true, because people that are heavier, like those of us who have some fat cells, that's where it's stored. Whereas people who are of a thinner body type, it's and that's so sad. It's so sad.
No, absolutely, yeah. Metabolism being used against you.
Yeah,
is no
discrimination,
fair.
Man.
It is, and I hope, in the very least with CBD, I hope we can get over that hump pretty quickly. And, in my opinion, it would be in our government's interest and broadly in society's interest if, rather than, doing what we're doing now and trying to keep it from people, the government just rolled out, here are your free CBD supplements. We have figured out that, people will be healthier. They're going to end up in the ER less. They're going to, suffer from other very common, age-related conditions or, discomfort. Anyhow, I know that's a pipe dream for the moment, but there, a few other countries are kind of getting the message. I mentioned, you brought up yesterday diabetes as a health area that really seems like it could benefit from CBD supplements. So when we
and actually other cannabinoids as well.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely, for sure. Yeah, that's right. And THCV, I think.
I think that's it. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So not CBD by itself, but they're just some of the biggest bummers, to use a not appropriate word at all. Some of these bummers about human health and life could be tweaked or very much sent in a different direction by this. So I got a lot of hope, and we can do this the right way, I think. What do you think, Dawn?
I think you're right. Okay, well, we are going to circle back around with Janet when she's got some more fun things to talk about.
Sounds great.
So, well, thanks a bunch, and I'm not sure what the next episode is. I think we've got I think we have a testing company coming on. And I've been trying to get one of these done for over a year now. So I'm really excited about breaking down what's on a COA, how to read it, how to know what to look for and what not to look for. I mean, what to look for, and so that I'm excited.
I'd love to. I can't wait to hear that episode, because there's so many questions. Yeah.
There are. Okay, everybody, thanks for joining us on episode 67. And until next time, stay happy and stay healthy. Bye.
Thanks, Dawn.
7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.